Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are. Hosted by Desiree Duffy.
It is time once again for us to have some book-ish fun. How is everybody doing today? Welcome. This is Books That Make You, and I'm your host, Desiree Duffy. And today we are talking about books that make you imagine a dystopian future. Dystopian books. You know, like The Hunger Games or 1984, The Handmaid's Tale. They all visualize a near future world that's gone terribly wrong. Government, political, religious, extremist somebody somehow takes over or infiltrates society, creating a world that reflects what our current world could become. Now, these are often cautionary tales, and they come with a warning, one that we should probably heed if we're smart. The book Last Call America, Last Call Before Darkness, is one such book. In it, Homeland Security has run amok, and they've taken hold, and our America is in a totally different state of affairs. Author Debra Tash joins us today. She is an award-winning American author, a journalist, an accomplished speaker, and she's also a painter, and some of her pieces have toured internationally in Japan. Debra also served as editor-in-chief of Citizens Journal, a Ventura County-based online news site that covers current and breaking news in the Ventura and Los Angeles County area. Debra is now here with us today to talk about her book, Last Call America, and to speculate with us on the future of America. Debra, hello. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Your book is amazing. It's scary, but it's definitely a page-turner, something that you cannot put down. So tell me, why is it, do you think, that we as readers are drawn to dystopian or speculative fiction? It's usually kind of bleak and depressing. Why is it that we as readers are attracted to it?
Well, I think that if you're plugged into the political scene or anything related to past politics, you really do see that things can shift and become not well and not good in society quickly. And you have to realize that you as a person, it's also hopeful, because if these heroines and heroes can overcome that situation, there's hope.
I love that. We should always have hope. I mean, after all, that was the last thing out of Pandora's box, wasn't it? Something that we always need.
Always.
Nowadays, it does seem, though, like you said, we're in this current political climate, and sometimes it gets scary because it looks like we're inching toward some of the famous dystopian scenarios that we read about in books and literature.
I think that we are inching towards that, and I'm not blaming one side of the aisle or another, because I think that all of us are part of this fabric of politics and society, and I think that we are inching towards it because we have people that have always wanted to be in the elites, always wanted to concentrate power, and unfortunately that's what's happening in Washington today. Totally antithetical of what our founders envisioned was local control is now being surrendered to central control.
That is such a great point, and I feel, too, the divide that's being wedged between the two parties. This us against them attitude is the worst thing that could happen to us. We might disagree. I might disagree with people on their social views, on financial views, left and right. there's always going to be differences of opinion, but the cool thing about this country is that we're all Americans. But when you see the hate and when you see the divide and when you see political factions taking advantage of that, they're using us, they're pitting us against each other. And I think that's the saddest thing that I feel. It's like, how can we as people allow that to happen?
I think that we are being pitted against each other, and it's by design. It's really, divide and conquer. I mean, that's as old as ancient Rome. Mm-hmm. Caesar saw it, and now they're doing it again. And that's the only way that this country could be conquered. It couldn't be conquered from without, but it could be conquered from within.
And because of the fact that you're a journalist, too, I am a firm believer in the Fourth Estate. We in America have this really great thing called freedom of the press, and that doesn't exist in many other countries. And it's true when the press is portrayed as the bad guy, when our freedom of speech allows certain factions to spew hate. It's like our own liberties, the things that make us great, have been twisted and are being used against us.
I think, though, that the problem with journalism today is that it isn't journalism, that it isn't objective, that it isn't taking a stance that, there's no side, that we're just reporting it straight. And unfortunately, in today's news media, and again, on either side, it's being tainted because mm-hmm. you could tell from any angle, and that's usually from fiction. But with journalism, you're not supposed to be telling it. You're just supposed to give the lead. You're supposed to tell people what happened, and you're supposed to close. Now it's, you got to think this way, and you got to think that way about whatever's happened. And that's really not fair. That's not freedom of the press. That's propaganda. That's Pravda.
Unfortunately, I do think it's because our news media is so commercialized. They need ratings to get advertisers because that's how they get viewers. And we the people sometimes, or frankly, oftentimes, it's really easy for us to fall for those sensational headlines and to want to watch and read the stories that rile us up. We're primitive in a lot of ways. It's our basic instinct when we are afraid and when we get riled up, when we get angry, those strong emotions can drive where we're going to point our eyeballs. That's what we're going to read. That's what we're going to listen to. So I do feel like it's very much like a circle, one feeds into the other, and I don't know what we can do about that, but unfortunately I do see that the news organizations, like you said, they are slanted. They're spewing propaganda, but then we just feed right into that, don't we?
We do. People tend to look for what supports their own views, but the problem is that once they find that source begins to shape their views. And it becomes even more drastic. It's really Saul Alinsky. It goes back to the Goebbels. It's, you tell a lie long enough and hard enough and repeat it, people believe it. They don't seek the truth anymore. They only then seek validation for what they now accepted. And that's unfortunate.
Yes, they do. They have that confirmation bias, and then they see the world differently, and they see the world that way. I'm always amazed by people who will see the same issue and they have this slanted perspective, and that's it. That's why it happens. Tell me, though, let's get back to the book, because I'm starting to get depressed.
It's not depressing because there is something within the human spirit that can overcome. That's what happened at the founding of our nation. It was founded on the individual and the individual's freedom and the individual's right to decide for themselves, not the sovereign, not the elite, but the people. And the people not in the collective sense, but in each individual person. And that's inspiring to me. That's uplifting, because we are all entitled to be who we are and freedoms. We could disagree. Disagreement is part of the human condition, but we shouldn't hate, and we shouldn't look at the other side and just put them down and marginalize them. We should weigh what they say and then decide for ourselves. So it's very uplifting because people need to become themselves and overcome and realize they have to cherish their individual freedom.
It all comes down to freedom, and yeah, we do. We have that wonderful right to be free and to decide and to make up our own minds. And I'm with you, Deborah. Maybe I'm a little bit, I don't have my rose-colored glasses on today, unfortunately. But you're right, and I love the fact that you're bringing a message of hope and, looking at the future, because I do feel that as Americans, we've overcome so much. I mean, look. Not too long ago, we celebrated the 75th anniversary of D-Day. Look at the wars that we've conquered. Look at the things that we've done for society in art, in science. So we've done so much, and it just feels so impossible that this could actually be our downfall, right?
It's true. I mean, you realize those men that stormed the beach, they did it because it was the right thing to do, not because they had anything to gain, because 40% of them gained nothing but their death. Mm-hmm. And so you have to realize that there's something within us that's willing to step out and take that chance to, even if it's not our own freedom, but it's the freedom of humanity. And that's what they fought for. That's why they stormed those beaches, because they were winning it for all of us. That shows hope. That shows everything that's good in each individual person, whether they're American or whoever, because the Americans themselves are from everywhere.
Yes, they are. And that is so crucial. Now, in your book, Last Call America, we have Homeland Security that has taken over, and we have terrible, awful things that are happening in America. Can you tell us about it? Can you set the stage for us?
Well, Homeland Security has always been a little bit scary for me because you're centralizing different arms of the government into one agency. It becomes very powerful. If that agency, you have to look at, we're in a connected age. And if that agency can gather data on people, you can weed out people that you can't control and you can't cow. It's a different kind of a perspective in that the individual is no longer important. It's what serves the state. And that's why you don't want concentration of power. That's why Homeland Security could be used to control us, to dominate us.
That is the thing about your book. In reading it, it's so plausible. You can see how that could so easily happen. And I know from my own experience, I would get shivers as I went, and I was just like, oh, that seems so impossible. But yeah, this author's right. This could really happen.
Yeah, you can see it even in, I used to be president, and I started a land property rights group down here in Ventura County. Mm-hmm. I'm in the rural area. I'm in the countryside, as it were. And we're seeing a loss of control over our own property. You regulate things to the point where you can't use them anymore. We say it's for the greater good, but you drive people away from the countryside. You drive them because they can't make a living out here. They can't build. They can't farm. It's becoming very hard just from that perspective. And it was very important to our founders that we have property, mm-hmm. that we have the ability to, that's one of the things that makes us independent, because we could take care of ourselves, mm-hmm. not the government. And I think with Homeland Security or anything, we're relying on the government to nanny state us, take care of us. I don't want anybody to take care of me. I want to take care of myself. And that's the problem with centralized power, like Homeland Security.
One of the things that I do enjoy about the book is there's an underlying little bit of romance too. Do you want to talk about the characters a little bit and some of the inspiration behind who they are and what they're doing?
Well, it's told in a first-person perspective from a young woman, and she meets the very first chapter a captain who's a very flawed character, but he has a wonderful character arc in the book, and through that they have the typical arc of love. You know, I can't stand you, I don't want you in my life, to the point where at first they're thrown together through the necessity to fight back, and then they fall in love. But they're struggling to love one another against this background of great stress and upheaval. So the characters, my critique group was extremely helpful in that they didn't like the hero of the story because he was almost an anti-hero in the beginning. So they helped shape him, really, because they said, we hate him. Why don't you kill him early on? And anyway, it really did. It really does. To me, part of the human condition is for our ability to love one another, too, and to love each other as a couple.
Yeah, and when I started reading the book, too, I don't want to give too much away, but I was like, oh, this guy, he's bad news. But then you were so masterful in the way that you crafted it, because there was just enough there to like. He did just enough to feel like, okay, is he going to redeem himself? Or, oh, wait, what's he going to do now? Is he going to take from the sisters? Is he going to take what is rightfully theirs? And I really do. I love his character arc and the way from the very beginning I was guessing, it was like, good guy, bad guy, is this romance going to work out? So kudos to you. I think you did a masterful job of his and all the characters in the book.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Now let's talk. I want to circle back a little bit, because you were mentioning some of the stuff that you've done as far as speaking for DAR at DAR, the Daughters of the Revolution. That's correct, right?
The Daughters of the American Revolution.
American Revolution. I was bumping on that. Thank you. Do you want to talk about some of the things that you've lectured on, and more importantly, that perspective that you bring again as a journalist and somebody who is in the art world, as well as somebody who has that historical perspective? You want to talk a little bit about the history that might have inspired the book?
Well, with the Daughters of the American Revolution, it actually won a national award, is Challenge the Wind, and it's set in the American Revolution, and it's told through three main point of view characters, and then their stories intersect. And what it is I really fell in love with the American Revolution. I fell in love with the people because you have to realize there was only a third of the population that even went along with the revolution. And a third were Tories, which were supporting the British. And they actually, a great many of them left. They left what would become the United States. And then the other third were just, let's see who wins, kind of. They're sitting on the fence. So it's those people that really risk everything. It is the pledge of our life and our fortune that they put on the line. And some of them didn't even have a fortune. They had nothing. But they saw the chance to become their own person, that they were no longer locked into this almost like caste system that existed in the British Empire, where there were the elites, the royals, the blue-blooded people, and then everybody else. So they saw the chance to become the king and queen of their own destiny. Mm-hmm. And really inspired me was the history of that. And then I was also involved in property rights. And so I lectured a great deal on the loss of property rights and how, and from a historical perspective, how property was, and this is your intellectual property, your real property, the ability to support yourself, how important that was to the founders, because they didn't see it as a means to become wealthy, lord it over somebody, become part of the elite. They saw it as a means to break free of the ruling class. So that's what I lectured on, weaving all of those perspectives together. And the Daughters of the American Revolution, I loved speaking with them because some of them wanted to adopt me. And my family came to the United States at the turn of the 19th century, so I was a little late. They were a little late to it, but they came for the same reason that they had the revolution. They came because they saw the opportunity to not be persecuted. They came from a very environment where they were being persecuted. Mm-hmm. And they came to here because they had the possibility to be free.
And where did your family come from?
From Ukraine.
Yes. And there's still so much strife going on in Ukraine even today.
And I did write a story from my grandmother's perspective because she came here as a 19-year-old with her sister across half of Europe and by themselves to win that life. And everybody that they left behind was killed in the Second World War.
Oh, God. Wow. Yeah, and I think, too, when we talk about people immigrating to the U.S., that, again, it goes to that divisiveness that some of us feel. But everybody who's here is an immigrant, unless you're Native American. And even then, you came over probably about 10,000 years ago over the Bering Strait. So we all have a history of sharing that same dream. Really, the only difference is when that happened. I mean, it was relatively recent in your family history that it happened. Mine just happens to go back a few generations, and there are some people who today, they want to get out of the terrible situation that they're in. And I think that's the thing that makes America beautiful, is the fact that we were set up. We were established as being that beacon, pulling in, your huddled masses. That's what we're all about, right?
Well, it is, and there is a perspective, though, even like when my grandmother came here, her and her sister were supposed to be met by their uncle, and there was a miscommunication, and he didn't come for them at Ellis Island, and they were going to be sent back because they didn't want to let women of that age out on the street. They could become wanton women. They didn't know my grandmother. She'd never go along with that. But it was the idea that you had somebody in the country to support you, that they were examined for health issues. There were a lot of barriers even then to coming in. Their uncle did finally get word through the Aid Society that these two nieces were stuck in Ellis Island and they were going to be sent back, and they were then released into his care, so to speak. Nice. But I think there has to be an ordered system, and there was an ordered system then. I just think that and there wasn't a welfare state. If my grandmother and her sister were let out, there was no welfare agency. It gets to be, there's issues on both sides. You understand the need for people to come, and you also have to understand the need for people to come in an orderly way. That's all. You as a country, you can't support everybody. You have to be able to also vet people and make sure that you have good people coming in, and there are good people. There are good people for the same dream that we had, our ancestors had.
We just need to make sure that everybody is safe and sound. And it feels like there can be systems that are set up and processes that are put into place that makes sure that that happens the best way it can. I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect system. You know, your example, your family example is a perfect example of that. They were almost sent back, but luckily they got word to your uncle and they were able to get in. It would have been so unfortunate had they been sent back. That would have been a fault within the system. So it might not ever be 100% bulletproof, but I think we can make strides and work toward making it work the best way that it can.
Yeah, because, what I wish for the rest of the world is that they could become an America, that they could become where you don't have that elitist people on top of them, because a lot of these people come from, they're very resource wealthy countries, but they suppress their people, and that's wrong. Mm-hmm. They have every right to succeed as anybody else.
They have this American dream because there's this sense that no matter what level you're on, if you work hard, if you're dedicated and passionate, you can rise up. And in some countries, that's virtually impossible because of the systems that they've got in place to keep people down.
Exactly. And that's a tragedy. That's a tragedy.
Who do you think should read your book?
I really think I would love to see the younger generation read it, because they're the ones that will have to pay the price for our mistakes. They should realize that they have the future in their hands. They really do. As trite as that sounds, it's cliched. The future belongs to them. And I hope that they can read it.
I know that you are very passionate about literacy for children. Books like this, that's who this is ultimately for, because this is the world possibly that they're going to inherit.
Exactly. I mean, and literacy and children, and respecting children, respecting them. My husband and I started our own school. We had it for about 15 years. It was state licensed. It was remarkable seeing how these kids had, we've seen them as adults, and they're successful. They're successful because they know they were cherished, and we should cherish them.
Oh, congratulations for that. Bravo. That's amazing that you and your husband did that. That's great.
It was a great experience.
Tell us what you are working on next. Do you have another book or something in the works?
I do. I actually want to bring out some of my books that I haven't published. One was published, but I now have the rights back to it, on just the Jewish experience, because that's my background. And also the one I'm working on now, because I was fascinated with Bryce Canyon, mm-hmm. and also the nuclear age, the birth of the nuclear age, Los Alamos and the atomic bomb and everything. So I have kind of a fantasy that I'm working on right now. And I might bring out a series of, again, books on the Jewish experience.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I can't wait to see all of that when it gets into print. Can you tell us, where can people follow you, find you online, social media?
Debra Tash on Facebook, and Debra Tash Author, and D Tash Author on Instagram and on Twitter. And also my website. You can get links to all my social media there, DebraTash.com.
Excellent. And of course, your book, Last Call America, is available on Amazon and from other booksellers as well.
Absolutely.
Debra, thank you so much. I enjoyed talking with you today.
Thank you.
Once again, my name is Desiree Duffy, and thank you, everyone, for being with us today. And you can find out more on our website. That's booksthatmakeyou.com. And you can also follow us. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Until next time, please enjoy all of the books that make you who you are.
The executive producer for Books That Make You is Desiree Duffy. Produced and sound mastered by Phil Giangrande. Engineering by Dave Nabox. Social media and promotion by Bree Sweeter. For more, visit booksthatmakeyou.com.